Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Feeling Seen podcast. It is the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. And today, I am most honored to be joined by, I'm a very special guest. She has been in this industry for hundreds of projects, a decade long. You might have seen her work in production design in beloved films by the Rustic Collective, Synchronic or The Endless, or Something in the Dirt recently, where she was production designer, all that and more. You might have seen her first feature out into the world as a director, VIDE NOIR, which came out recently. There is more work to look forward to from Ariel Vida as a director in Trim Season, which is coming out not too terribly long from now, but I don't know that I can tell you when yet. Ariel Vida, welcome to the show. What else do the people need to know about you before we get started?
I think you covered it better than... No, thank you for, Something in the Dirt. Just came out, and I had the privilege of also second unit directing all the inserts while the guys were off with Marvel, which is a huge honor. And it's just the same, but within the same week, VIDE NOIR and then Something in the Dirt came out, and it has been after a long pandemic of projects on hold or being extended in post. Feels like kind of the first time to be able to celebrate all of the cast and crew's ridiculously hard work over all these years.
No, I want to touch on something with VIDE NOIR that just to get a sense of like your sort of personality profile as a human being and a filmmaker. How did you get in touch with the band Lord Huron, who is at the center of VIDE NOIR? How did you get a hold of them to become collaborators with them?
We've got to go a long way back. I was definitely just a huge fan, not only of their music, obviously is incredible, but their lore of the music videos. I first saw them perform live on one of the late night talk shows. Mm-hmm. Didn't even realize they were from Michigan, and looked up their music videos out of curiosity, and they were just the most. Blew my mind in terms of what music videos I probably just hadn't maybe watched enough at that point in college. Mm-hmm. But the first video for a song called Time to Run ended with based on the novel by George Ranger Johnson.
Okay.
They'll string me up for all that I've done. I'm going soon. I'm gonna leave tonight.
So I Googled George Ranger Johnson, and there's a website about all of his books, all of these dime novels, mm-hmm. and he's a recluse in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is so, I want to know everything. I want these books. Come to find out, he doesn't exist. This is this whole world the band has made.
Wow.
They were like, let's mix spaghetti Western film references with
mm-hmm.
Indian cinema, and all these just, the Time to Run video alone had subtitles in other languages. And I was like, what are they doing? Mm-hmm. And fast forward to, by being in the theater department, I saw a casting call.
Was this at Michigan State?
Yeah. So I'd already, I had just finished college, but was still on the theater department listserv. I'm really glad I hadn't done the proper thing to get off of the mailing list, and saw the casting call, and literally cold emailed to be like, do you need any help with anything else? They'd already moved to Los Angeles, but were flying back to the just northern coast, literally Lake Huron, to film this video. She lit a fire, and I just very just boldly emailed are you considering other crew positions? And they were like, no, we are not. And I was like, that makes sense. And so I emailed again to just be like, not, just volunteer based, hey, I have a camera, I have this, I can make props, I can make costumes, could I help? I tried to do what they tell you in college, to be really formal first, but here's my resume for consideration in all department positions. do you need a B camera, second AC?
Yeah.
And then they were like, no, we're doing this the five of us. And I was like, so can I just help?
You're like, okay, fuck, can I hang out?
Can I light arrows on fire and make cloaks for you? And they were like, sure. Weirdo. So that was the first. I'm still ridiculously proud of it. That just a few of us, which only now in this booth, thinking of that 10 years later, that's still with Rustic. It's and with them, with Ben and the guys, with Miguel. It's the Make Movies with Friends. So it was just a few of us on the shores of Lake Huron doing this music video, and it was monumental moment of my life of like literally we were shooting this flaming arrow across the lake, and I was like, I feel like I'm in Lord of the Rings. Like this is what I dreamed of doing, 10 years ago when I saw Lord of the Rings. And I was like, how do you get into the film industry? So 2 pivotal memories with these guys who are just Ben, Miguel, Tom, and Mark, just the most lovely people in the world. Having just met them and unloading a batch of swords in a parking garage in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and being like, I brought these swords for you guys in case they would be helpful for your music video. And then I was like, I want to be so useful on set.
Yes.
I've been told to be useful. So I had this jacket with a million pockets. And at one point, again, nicest, most talented person, Miguel was like, do you have gum by any chance? And I was like, do you want fruity gum or minty gum? Because I have both. Next to the hand warmers and the 5-hour energies, I came as prepared as humanly possible. Please like me. So yeah, that was my first and trying to make a long story long, that as we continued to work on other videos, they always had like a feature and more of lore.
Yeah.
And, Ben has all these brilliant ideas. And so for the next 5 years of working on videos, I would just, be witness to the backstory of these videos. The first one I had the honor to direct was the World Ender video. And the big, bold follow-up question was like, hey, you always talk about these, elaborate stories we only get to hint at in the videos. Mm-hmm. What if we did? This was my first my first pitch was, let's do a short film. Mm-hmm. This was me being mildly reasonable. I was like, let's do a short film for your next album. Mm-hmm. And what I was shown, when Ben gave just the overview of events as a possible short film, I was like, this is a feature. This is I don't want to cut any of this out. Yeah. And they were like, how do we sure,
like,
but
I'll figure it out.
How do you do a feature with no money and no any? And I was just like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. I'll figure it out. So yeah, it was like I would design a commercial, take that money, do a few days here and there, and it was my just ambitious madness to be like, let's just we could do it.
Let's just keep going. Yeah. Well, I think that engine building process, I honestly think, is a very appropriate segue into today's main event. I need to make it clear to you all that Ariel is wearing a necklace replica of a bracelet worn by one of the 2 main characters in the movie, RRR. RRR, of course, being the story of 2 fighters in their own regard, a man named Beam who lives in a rural tribe. The movie begins with a young member, a little girl named Molly, being taken from that tribe by evil white oppressors. Governor Scott, who runs the state area in that part of India, on behalf, of course, of the British, of the Crown. And that child is taken, which means Beam needs to go to the city in order to find Molly and bring her home, along the way encountering the most formidable soldier of the crown in all the land, Ram. And the 2 of them, their paths cross as though destiny brought them together. But who knows what's going to happen over the next 3 hours of the movie to bring them closer and possibly tear them asunder as they become friends to enemies, enemies to friends. We're going to spoil the entire movie, guys, but if you want to just stop now until you watch RRR, I will leave it open-ended in that way for you to experience it as fresh and new, and then look forward to the part where a whole zoo of animals is going to jump across the screen like they're fucking Avengers.
Yeah, if this comes before you've seen it, please, that was one of the, besides encouraging me to see it in the first place, the best things that film Twitter did for me was go in blind. So I went in and I was like, I don't know what year this takes place. I didn't know it was based on a true story. I didn't know what language it was in. I was just like, let's see this movie.
Maybe like me, you came to be aware of RRR when it was still being called Rise, Roar, Revolt. I did not meet Ariel until this year. Shortly after she had seen RRR for the first time, which means appropriately that I met Ariel after her life had changed forever, having experienced RRR. And that is the movie we are here to talk about today. And we're talking about two characters, right? Like, this is a package deal.
I hope I'm not breaking the rules. That
No.
The entire movie.
They're a real yin and yang. I mean, it's one soul here.
Yeah. The friendship between Ram and Beam. That's the. Yeah, nothing has ever affected me the way that RR did as a filmmaker, as a person, as an audience member. So yeah, thank you for not making me do some sort of. I couldn't have come on if you're like you have to pick one of them.
No. That would have been really. It would have been disingenuous and it would have been inaccurate and unfair. This is by writer and director S.S. Rajamouli, a Tollywood filmmaker that is Telugu language cinema in India. There are many woods in India. This is just one of them. Not all Indian movies are Bollywood, guys. Not all Indian movies are Bollywood, so stop saying that. And this movie is very representative of sort of the bigness and sincerity that can come within Indian action cinema, but it is really kind of all of those biggest, brightest things that I feel familiarized into Indian action cinema with, but sort of sharpened to their finest point. And their most sort of globally accessible point, too, I believe. Like, we can all access the story of the power of friendship. And what I wanted to know from you first off was, you've told me that you didn't necessarily, the first time you watched it, feel the sort of all-encompassing connection to the story because it was like, is this movie gonna hurt me? Like, I see all the ways that this movie is leading to me the story of like friendship and intimacy and connection between these two like brother friends. But it was like, is this gonna hurt me by ending? Is somebody gonna die? Is this gonna be a tragedy? Spoilers, guys, they don't die. Like, I've just got to tell you that. Thank God, she says. So, but like the second time, it sounds like you could really give yourself over to the central relationship in this movie that was so nourishing for you, and I wanted to know what that second viewing experience was like. Because Ariel, just in theaters, Ariel has seen this, I think, is it 28 or 29 times?
28
times. Yeah, that's just in theaters. Like, she surely watched it at home many more times. But so, and that's not like a LOL kind of thing. That's just, I just need you guys to know like the level of connection we're talking about here. So what was that second experience like of watching RRR, where you could really relinquish yourself to it?
By the end, which I saw someone else online sum it up as like a victory lap, is by the forest fight. It's like maybe even by the jail you can tell. So I think even it was by the end, that was my last like 30 minutes of like, no, this is it. This is everything I've ever wanted to see. Up until that point, I was so in love but so scared that it was going to do the like, yeah, and then one of them will die and the other one will carry it through the end.
Now we got to raise the stakes by killing somebody.
Yeah. It's not about friendship. It'll be about this, a tragic point. So I had seen tweets about that there is apparently a film with as much if not better action as Mad Max Fury Road, but
which is another favorite of yours.
Exactly. Yeah, got a big poster up on the wall.
Yeah,
and but with like the sincerity and earnestness of friendship and brotherhood. And the first time I saw it, I remember screen capping on my phone. I was like, wait, what is this? And then I saw someone else also saying best action. Just completely genuine, sentimental film. And I was like, okay, everyone is just describing my dream movie. Like, what? But yeah, the whole time watching it, it wasn't until the end of the film, even prior to the end credit dance number. This is just was my number, like the Spotify Wrapped was like, you've listened to this just hundreds of times. What's wrong? I think that euphoric moment was happening even just at the very end when I realized that it really was just a celebration of friendship and joy and hope. And I didn't know that they were, I didn't know anything based in history yet. I knew nothing about, then immediately it became my, hyperfixation to like, I got to know how this, came to be. But I just literally didn't know the director, the cast. And yeah, I'd say the last half an hour I was just at an Alamo Draft House, which I just going back to, VIDE NOIR and Something in the Dirt finally being able to share that with audiences this fall. As the pandemic was happening, Amy Simons' She Dies Tomorrow was going to be at South by Southwest.
And you were a production designer on that.
Yeah, and she's just the most amazing, like just one of my biggest heroes. And she's incredible. And unfortunately, the pandemic happened then. As the world was shutting down, I drove to Austin anyway. South by was canceled, but I was going to go meet people and celebrate Austin, celebrate South by. And when it all fell apart and then no one ended up coming to Austin anyway, I got there, only got to meet a couple people there, and decided before heading back, as the world was clearly over, I was just going to do a kind of mini tour of the Alamo Draft Houses in Austin.
Yeah.
Like, I watched, it was Parasite, Little Women, and Jojo Rabbit. I just was hopping around to different Alamo Draft Houses before driving back and being like, well, I don't know when I'll see a movie again. And it was kind of mind-blowing. In hindsight, to be like, that it was a good 2 years when I was directing Trim Season and people started going back to the theater. I was like, I can't risk, getting COVID or anything. So I didn't really go back to the theater until early 2022, and it was like my third or fourth, really getting back into Katie Simon, my best friend and production designer of everything I direct, art director of everything I design. I was like, hey, I hear this film seems pretty up my alley. Like, do you want to, they're doing this encore. Apparently it already came out, but they're doing this encore on June 1st. Do you want to go? And just that serendipity of in 2020, as the world was ending, went to a few Alamo Draft Houses, savored the movie experience, and then it was the downtown LA Alamo Draft House. It was going to be one night only, one night only. That night we were both so pumped. We came home. My roommate later was like, "You guys were like the Kool-Aid man." We just
bursting through the wall.
Through the door. We're like, "We just saw the best thing ever." My sister's a personal trainer as well. I'm like, "Miranda, give me some arm workouts. I need to be able to do pull-ups now." Just like maniacs of the house. So and then I kept, fortunately, Variance Films and Potente Films with They kept playing it, and my mind was literally just blown in terms of what a movie could be, everything I'd always wanted to see and experience and make. So I just couldn't, I think New York also kept playing it at the IFC Theater. Fortunately, in Los Angeles, it just kept playing. So I was like, this is the reminder that I needed, 20 years after seeing Lord of the Rings and wanting to make films, and everything with the pandemic, just being in those theaters and seeing how it moved people and how it moved me, I was like, this is...
You described it to me as this is the spark that I needed to love what I do again. This can be so arduous and it can take so much time, and there can be so much time between the work and the payoff itself. I remember you describing to me multiple times being like, this made me feel the fire again to want to do this work. Exactly.
I having designed for so long and wanting to direct, and what an impossible dream for just nobody from a small town to be like, I have no connections or nothing, but I want to do this. The piece that I'd made for myself was like, maybe I'll make something someday that's exactly what I want to see, and even if it's for no one else, film, like they say, obviously make what you want and be true to that. So chasing that dream, I'd also certainly never thought that anyone else maybe wanted to see what I wanted to see. Clearly, people want their action movies to be, a lot more reserved, and to not only, experience RRR if it hadn't taken off the way that it did, would have, again, just for the rest of my life, the title of your, podcast, I felt so seen and so enlivened and inspired, but to see that everyone else was responding, the hours-long conversations and lobbies afterwards that I've had with strangers.
Yeah,
I was
literally, I've watched you have hours-long conversations with strangers in lobbies. That's not a hyperbole. It's not a what if.
It's true, and even if I never got to make films again, but as someone who's all the scripts that I have, all my dream scripts, centered on that, and I was like, oh, these sentimental, unabashed displays of friendship told through insane feats of of action and larger than life situations. I was just like, I should be able to on a podcast, but I cannot put to words, just what that did to my brain and heart, to be like, oh, other people actually, feel the same. I thought literally maybe people didn't want, these, unsubtle, you
Yeah.
know, tearful expressions of, you know, unconditional love for other people. I was like, I'll do it anyway. No one's going to care about my films or stories, but maybe a couple people, I'll do it. And this is what I want to do. And yeah, there was definitely an element. One of the screenings I went to, I think it was the one on the roof, so where I just felt, you know, moved to tears almost of even just as a filmmaker, if I never got to make the films that I really, you know, all of my own scripts that I dream of, just this encapsulation of just what I value about the human experience, just this love and sacrifice and celebration at the end of joy. Not that there's anything wrong with, you know, extremely tragic or bittersweet endings, but maybe it's where I am in my life right now, where I was like,
I like a happy fucking ending, man. Call me basic. Call me what you want. Give me that goddamn... Give me impossible survival.
Please.
Give me they came out unscathed. Don't give me stakes. Make Gale and Sydney live forever in the Scream franchise. I don't need it to be brought down to reality or grounded. I live in reality where it's grounded.
Exactly. That's what I needed. I think just, again, Lord of the Rings, I remember once was unloading a truck for like a film, like a commercial art department job, and it like hit me, Sam's speech when he was like, and these are the stories that meant something, even when you were too young to know why. And I was like, holy shit, that's me. I was 10 and I didn't know why, but it moved me. It was like all these different, I'm sure.
Like Sam Weiss?
Sam, yeah. Like
Sam
when
Weiss
he's talking to Frodo about the old stories. And RRR is the first and only thing since I was 10 and saw Lord of the Rings that was like, this just is everything I've wanted to feel and see about the world.
Well, as an avowed Samwise myself, I am 100%, and I know that like I in my identification comes up on this pod a lot, guys. In my identification of my queerness, panromantic, gray, asexual, the notion of just friends has always been an insulting sort of turn of phrase to me. It's a really popular colloquialism. Well, we're just friends. There's no just about friendship to me, and one of the reasons why like stories of like toxic female friendship in cinema have always appealed so much to me is like it's fun, it's salacious, it's a good time, but also really until lately those are the closest approximations I could find really of the notion of something like friendship that expands beyond the vernacular we have to discuss it, that like it's not a sexual romance, it's not quite a romance, but it's more than what we as a heteronormative socialized society would consider to be the bounds of a friendship. It's an expanded and greater kind of intimacy. And so that is where, like, I have had to find my identity into something like a Jennifer's Body, where it's like a friendship so close that it like approaches like an ESP level connection, that like invisible string between two people. And I don't want anybody. I want you to know that Ariel is acting out a small scene from RRR in the booth right now that invokes this exact scenario that I'm talking about. Rom in the jail cell buried under the ground. If you know, you know. But so to... I completely understand what you are saying in the sense of, like, I didn't think that anybody else, because it's never been proven to me, was interested in showing this boundless, limitless, intimate connection via a friendship that could stand on its own and wasn't compared to something else as greater than or less than. And to hear Rajamouli talk, and in a Q&A I went to with you as well, to hear Rajamouli talk about, like, no, this was just a movie about a friendship. Like, you can ask me all these other contextualizing questions, but, like, this is a movie about a friendship. Like, that was the point. That was the goal. He built 3 hours, musical numbers, and sprawling battle scenes around a friendship. And so I wanted to hear from you about, why is that important to you? I've just told you why it's important to me. I've told everybody at home, why is that important to you?
I mean, I think that's one of the, the reasons we instantly connected so much was that same, that same value and strange debates I've had about, romance films and being like, I'm not saying there shouldn't be any, but it's a strange...
Any hiatus, guys.
It's done.
We've been there.
I was like, what was strange was it being the be-all, end-all of human significance to each other. Yeah. Being these... sexual relationships between two people,
these monogamously connected sexual relationships. You're the beginning and end. I withhold other things because you are my receptacle for how I process this world. And it's like, but what if I have a tapestry of people in my life who are the most personal and close an individual could possibly be to me, where I exercise this through like various aspects of people in my experience.
Yeah, that display of for lack of a better, non-transactional, not like, oh, you're going to be this relationship, you'll have to make these compromises. We could click in so many ways, but if this doesn't work, then it's not going to, just this, love at first sight, platonic, the unconditional, love and adoration and support and all the things that I feel. Like I said, I would come back to Katie and Kim and these people in my life, and any insinuation that they would be like, oh, this is the lesser than. This will be the stepstone to eventually the person you end up with. Is I feel like, again, the idea of the feeling scene in films. It's not. I'm well aware there's no lack of bromances or, it was the friends we made along the way, like that's obviously a very, very common trope, but it being actually the be all end all, not like, well, it was a friendship amidst a love triangle, amidst a boy, girl team up, friendship saving the world isn't new, and I'm sure and would welcome plenty of other suggestions have been amassing them, but it not being second tier or anything to like, okay, but also the hero fell in love along the way. And that's what's really, what's really important here. Just being like these two people, going through these insurmountable odds, and just then the extent that they would go to, for each other, is what they would do to save each other. That's always what I've been wanting to do myself. And like I said, it was going to do anyway. It wasn't necessarily that I was going to not try to make these films, but I definitely assumed I was trying to do something that other people didn't care for as much, and to just experience that, even if no one else had, liked it as much, and it hadn't continued for months and months. And RRR for Oscars. So to be in these audiences and see these other people also just move to tears and gasping and talking afterwards with people who also like when Ram is taking down these final few soldiers even after being stabbed in the back so that Beam can get away, and Beam ripping the jail cell door off for his friends, like just that, again, like Lord of the Rings.
What is the line? Your friendship is
more precious than this life to me.
Yes, your friendship is more precious than this life to me.
And I can't necessarily pinpoint when somewhere around Lord of the Rings, I'm sure, but these larger than life displays of I would again joke before, I was like, I want to make Mad Max but with like more hugs. But I was like, so being like, it's not that there wouldn't be the most true to our regular lived experience of some story of friendship told on like the football field. But I was like, everything about that's interested me about cinema or theater. I grew up with a theater background before I knew that independent filmmaking was a thing, and those expressions of friendship, to me, the larger than life stakes, like that was Sam carrying Frodo up Mount Doom. It was like it's what is the biggest personification of friendship, of love. So yeah, RRR. It's like they keep carrying each other in various scenes. It's literally carrying each other,
physically carrying one another, if not emotionally carrying one another. Well, and I think the way the way you emphasize this, and like talking about how like something hadn't sort of resonated for you in that way since 20 years prior in something like Lord of the Rings. I think people who don't necessarily organize their lives the way perhaps me and you do, is how rare this is that we get to see this. Like how truly rare and how often we are headcanoning our way through relationships on screen to be like, I can see how that fits like a part of my experience, but that it always comes to an end. There's always a kind of limit to it. And I think what this movie does beautifully well is the limitlessness with which it frames Ram and Beam's dedication to one another. And it's like, yes, accurate. Finally accurate.
Yeah, and the unabashed sentiment to see, like these,
in a cynical world is unironic and unabashed sentiment.
Yeah, these heroes capable of these feats, and then being like, oh, I'm going to carry my friend, because he danced, too hard, wiping the blood away and having, a tear in your eyes. It's like, and it isn't like I need to save this, hot love interest, that I just, it's like...
No, Ram and Beam are each other's hot love interest.
Exactly. Just like...
Ariel doesn't want me to talk about the thirst gifts she sends of Rob Sherrod. She's only minimally sending those. She's sending the friendship gifts of them tenderly touching each other's faces, but every once in a while there's like a video, there's a gif of Ram Charan working out.
I mean, there's a lot of gifs on the internet. I don't want to repeat any. I got to keep it.
You do. You have to keep building your library. It's time for a break, but when we come back, it is more RRR with Ariel Vida, including the ways that the film has inspired her creatively. Then you'll have one quick thing about the much anticipated, by me, by millions of others, by gays on the internet, new Blumhouse movie, Megan, starring the one and only Allison Williams opposite a killer robot. We will talk about that at the end.
My fellow graduates, for 500 episodes, my podcast, The JV Club with Janet Varney, has gathered story after story of all the scandalous things we've done throughout our childhoods.
Wait, what's happening?
Stories like how Jamila Jamil survived a horrific house party and she was on crutches.
This is great.
Or how Hal Lublin learned a Shakespearean monologue in his pajamas.
This is not the speech we approve.
Without your love and life tragedies, there would be no podcast. In fact, I have an exclusive look at how Maggie Lawson's mom confronted her after a sneaky basement meetup with her crush.
Spill the tea, JV.
Security.
Listen to the JV Club with Janet Varney, Thursdays on Maximum Fun. Class of Forever.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Adam.
We host a show called Greatest Trek on Maximum Fun that covers all the new Star Trek shows, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, Picard, Prodigy, Discovery, and any other new Star Trek show Paramount throws at us.
Come find out why we're the most important Star Trek podcast on the internet with our funny, informative recaps of all the new Star Trek shows that Paramount keeps churning out.
Subscribe to Greatest Trek. It's a new Star Trek podcast from the makers of The Greatest Generation.
Welcome back to Feeling Seen. I'm talking with Ariel Vida about S.S. Rajamouli's epic RRR and the two BFFs at the center of it all, Rom and Beam. With Lord of the Rings coming, obviously at such an early age, and then, it's like bookending these, let's bookend your, an era of your life with like Lord of the Rings on one side and put RRR on the other. In the middle of that, obviously, you grow up and you start discovering filmmaking and storytelling, and even like things that you worked on a decade ago have introduced these themes into your creative life as a maker yourself of like pair bonded like bros loving one another, and then like coming into like work I know that you're developing now for like putting into the like making in the future that is still like that Sam and Frodo, that Rom and Beam, like it seems like since you started making stuff for yourself, that has been the principle around which it has been built when you've kind of been your most true in what you're expressing out there.
Falling into the art department once, going back to the Lord Huron connection, once I did the World Ender video, and it felt like the first time in LA that I was able to, show what I wanted to make. It's very stylized. It's very action-packed as a director.
I remember that first conversation where you were like, where you said Mad Max with more hugs, and you're like, I want to just like make really stylish action movie about friendship. I was like, it was the Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. And I was like, I texted Jordan. I was like, send me all other films that are like this. Because, but after World Ender, and I mean, I don't know if like, financially I would have survived, but I was like, I clearly have to stop designing, and how do I just, how do I focus without the resources that some people have on directing? And I had just been doing a handful of kind of, again, I think we were all just paying the bills, little jobs with the Rustic team, and had, I think, vowed like to my roommate even that I was getting out of production design. And then I read the script for The Endless, and that was obviously actual, in the context of the story, actual brothers, but The Endless, touching on a lot of those themes was what brought me back or kept me in in production design. And obviously I'm so grateful now, everything that we've done since then. But that was, I just remember like pouring through The Endless script, and that was also obviously the devotion that the brothers have, that's the issues of communication, and all of these different problems that they're working through in a heightened sci-fi, environment. It was, I literally just remembered, I think the living room was dark, maybe the sun had rose, and I never turned the lights on because I was just devouring the script, and I immediately made a breakdown. I was like, I want to design this, like, what do I have to do? And of that, so much of design, up to that point, and then obviously, very frequently since then has, been difficult in different ways. The prioritization of time with also, wanting to write and direct the actual stories that are being told, commercials and music videos, just, to the ones that are more to pay the bills. And Rustic Films and just doing the Endless in the first place was another. I was just like, oh yeah, this is the kind of thing that, if I get hit by a bus, it's just like, Justin's character, trying to provide for Aaron and all these different things. I was like, this was that moved me to the point that if it wasn't for the actual script of The Endless, I don't know exactly where I'd be, but I don't think I would have stayed with production design because I hadn't actually had anything resonating up to that point the way that The Endless had.
What I wonder, having made earlier work that does adhere to these same like really strong themes for you, and then having like this thing that you're like, I need to leave production design behind so I can focus on my directing. I'm a director. And then having those resonant themes pull you back into this career and keep you there for a while longer. And then coming into like making your own scripts, like at a time where you're going to be making your own scripts as a filmmaker and having scripts in your back pocket that adhere to these themes even still, that like are still these stories of sort of companionship and questing together in beautiful landscapes. Now having experienced RRR, my question would be, what about your work that you are going to be putting out into the world or developing next, what does RRR do as in terms of like sort of demonstrating possibility for like scripts that you have or scripts that you almost have? Like, did watching RRR kind of allow you to focus things in certain ways where like, well, no, I can go bigger on this, or I can go further on this, or I can be more unabashed on this in ways that maybe you previously felt like, well, maybe I have to tamp that down a little bit. Like, what is the sort of long tail in the respect of you as a creator?
What a good question. You're really good at this. Yeah, I mean, I think I want to say that I wouldn't have, that I hadn't gotten to the point. One of my dream scripts I hope to do very soon is this weird Western. And
I love that it's weird Western. I love that that's like, it's not the title of this movie, but maybe it might as well be the working title of this movie is Weird Western.
Yeah, I mean, because there's so many short stories and not a lot of films doing it, just anthologies of short stories. But this weird Western baby of mine for 7 or 8 years now that I've been developing it. Is touching on all of those themes, and I don't think that I'd gotten to the point by any means where I was like, oh, I'll have to actually, in the final execution of it, like really, dial this down to be this, serious, unfeeling, like we can't shoulder clasp at best, no hugs, like
bros only shoulder clasp.
Yeah. But it was certainly in the back of my head, like a little bit of a timidness that my friends, one of my closest friends and also ridiculously talented graphic designer of everything I've ever directed or designed, all of Rustic Films things we've done together, Kim, is always so good at translating the stories when I send her a script to like what I was trying to say, and I'm like, you said it better even than I could have. But that I was aware that it was there, but it's not like I thought that I could necessarily go into a room and pitch on behalf of that. That would be the secret thing I was trying to actually slip in the coverage with these ramen beams, these beautiful moments. I was like, well, certainly no one's in Hollywood like looking for that. I'll do it anyway, but that'll be the secret like thing I'm trying to do under the radar. And but yeah, it was like I said, seeing it in RRR, I was like, this is celebrating, in terms of our brief time on this planet, what people can do for each other, these friendships, these just unconditional connections with other people. To be able to go into a room and I guess, speak confidently to it, pitch it as, part of the main core and not feel like it needed to have this, to be secondary again to some sort of other element that was more, I don't know, I haven't had this experience yet to say how it works.
Yeah.
But, certainly made me in these long conversations I've had afterwards, with people from, all ages and all backgrounds also being like, oh yeah, when, when Ram is trying to make sure that, his final moments to make sure that Beam and Molly, get to safety, the same things that resonate with, with people, just that, just that energy, however it goes in an actual, room with executives, to be able to, on my own side at night when I'm, stressing over these projects, to have seen how these things move people, the moments I've spoken to people who are like, I was going through a really hard time, and, whether they have a ROM to their beam, in their life, or that kind of thing, or just the individual feats from the characters. To me, I remember when obviously Rom fights off all those people, and then he doesn't even get selected to be a special officer. It's like that resonated pretty hard to that. 10 years in Hollywood, and it's like, I think that just that energy of
you have absolutely fought infinity onslaught of people, and then like
nope.
Now, but now though.
So it's it's like, maybe in the right room someone would be like, oh yeah, like RRR did really well, but it's less like the spoken word of like bringing it up in some sort of big meeting, but that inspiration in the back of my head being like, no, I know this will move people just beyond just me, or just me and Kim and Katie. Like this resonates with other people, and this just as a filmmaker, aside from the core of friendship, just the way that it sets up so beautifully, the things that attracted me to production design, these larger than life, theatrical, beautiful, frames that they have, the flaming tire, passing by Rom, and the barbed wire, all of these beautiful, beautiful shots. The designer, VFX supervisor, and cinematographer, like, just, again, to me, in terms of this, just full, I guess it's maximalism.
Yeah,
but that's full maximalist, visuals as well as emotion. To me, while I prep things, when I started finding out how Rajamouli was prepping his working from the very onset with a concept artist of these moments, of these 3 or 4 hero moments per scene, and then developing the scene and the action to serve these moments. Mm-hmm. Over the pandemic, for the first time, in the few months that film was down entirely, that is what Katie and I were doing for the Western, mm-hmm. without even knowing. Just that being the first step to me were these pivotal, moments of, and again, in that case, it was like someone, standing over their friend, fighting, cataclysmic odds, on behalf of their friend. And I was having Katie, draw these encapsulations of that. And to see that that's how, it certainly feels that way. These aren't accidental, beautiful shots. These are the, he said, like the pearls that he's stringing together, that these action sequences, these set pieces are serving. But again, they're not just for some sort of, cool factor. They're these beautiful moments of, again, like what they will do for each other, and having that literally be the core, just in the filmmaking process of being able to, with my team, with my designer, with my cinematographer, to be able to, be like, distilling, the Western, for instance, into being like, mm-hmm. These images that resonate because of, what the characters mean to each other. And I think just at every moment now to be able to go back and be like, that's what Rajamouli was saying that he was doing, and this is how it came across. They weren't just editing for I don't know, the economy of a tight action sequence. It was like, what is the heart, what is the emotion of
mm-hmm.
why this person is lifting up their friend or going to these stakes, being able to have the coverage embrace someone screaming in anguish, or what they'll do for their cause and their loved ones, is again just completely unabashed, unsubtle, mm-hmm. like love, what humans are capable of. Or obviously it's larger than life, but that's what I was looking for. I wanted to see these huge feats. I feel like I had boiled down plenty of my own dream really expensive like sci-fi scripts to like underestimating this friendship is what saved the world, and to actually have something that was just these friends taking down these horrible odds, and with such, again, joy and uncynical like celebration of life. Again, obviously things like Lord of the Rings, bittersweet moments, even as a kid, that was very defining. But maybe it's just what the past 10 years have felt like, what recent events have felt like, of just seeing that kind of joy. And the dance, and Rajamouli spoke about the final number being this, celebration that these actual freedom fighters didn't even live to see, and giving them that, that moment of like, just joy and celebration of what happened. I think that is what I needed right now. Like, as a person, not just as a filmmaker, I needed that just hope and joy.
Well, I think as like a winding down thought, I think that a thing that can't be underestimated, and you can lose track of it until you really think about it, but I think something that is underestimated is the power of having a shorthand. But it's nice when you see something that gives you a shorthand to refer to so other people can access this thing that maybe your explanation of it doesn't quite elucidate the reality as much as this example. Be like, it's like you said, like going into pitch meetings. It's not something that, like before it might feel like something you had to sneak in this very true core of what you're making. You had to like sneak it in later. It wouldn't be part of like the headline. But what you can now have as a shorthand is like, well, think RRR. and to be able to give people tangible and, joyfully maximalist things to say like, well, imagine it like this. Then it's like, oh, fucking shit. Like, oh, okay. I feel that now. Like that hits me now for you to say it like that. And it's hard to not have a shorthand and to have to constantly caveat and define and explain and re-explain. So it's nice to have things that just give us those endpoints to be able to share with other people.
And to feel, obviously, it moves, so many different audiences. And as soon as I saw it, that June 1st, Katie and I saw it together. And our first thought, we're like, that's us. Like, we're running around the apartment, like immediately the amount of, unspoken things we have, on set together, and now nonstop have done their little hand signals from the first time they meet to the very end when they're, going towards Governor Scott. It's like, that completely resonated, not with obviously one of the, most important relationships of my entire life, but then the amount of people still adoring the movie so much, but being like, I want what they have. The amount of people on Twitter just being like, how do I get that in my life? And just obviously the immense, just gratitude. And I don't know how I got so lucky that, Katie and multiple people, like I said, like Kim, that, Hannah, the production designer who taught me everything I know, it's like, seeing people resonate with that, but also being like, oh, the amount of people who are like, wow, I wish I had that. And I'm like,
you're like, yeah,
holy
you do.
Shit. Like,
yeah, you do, honestly.
How did I get so lucky to be, writing and longing for it to put to screen, but also have it in my own life, which I'm sure is, another reason I want to put it on screen. My entire childhood, I shouldn't, remotely be remiss for 20 years to not mention Chelsea as well, like my just childhood best friend. She's back in Michigan right now, but I'm just like, the idea of not having a rom to your beam, I'm like, that's what I've known. Maybe it's like that is what defines, that is what defines my life. It's my friends who have defined me. It's my friends that are the reason I'm here at all. So if I can make anything that moves people 1/100th of the way that RRR has, but like I said, just sitting, I was on a roof, it was kind of raining, there weren't many other people there, but just watching it and being like, but even if I got run over tomorrow, like someone could always point to RRR. It's like, well, that's what I felt. Like that's what I felt about the world. This just celebration, larger than life. Love and joy and action and dancing and motorcycles and fire and horses. I was like, that's me. No matter what, Now it's not here on this podcast. You could point to like, well, that's what Ariel felt about the world.
Well, I think Ariel, that is the perfect closing note for this conversation. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me on the record this time about RRR. I truly appreciate it.
There's nothing that encapsulates me as a person or as a filmmaker more than RRR, and Jordan has witnessed me in conversation, but also just right next to me at the theater, just like vibrating. just the sheer joy that it brings me, and I'm just so grateful to have been here, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again to Ariel Vida. Thank you so much for RRR Nation out there, nation spanning the world over. A global community thanks you. You can rent her new movie, VIDE NOIR, on pretty much any streaming platform. And you can also find out there widely Something in the Dirt, the latest from Rustic Films, her most recent collaboration as production designer, occasional second unit director, and all-around valuable contributor. Something in the Dirt, check it out. Support independent cinema, as we always tell you. If you want to watch RRR, a theater is the best place, and it is still making its way around the landscape as it pursues those Oscar nominations. But until a screening comes to your town, you can watch it online. It is available in a variety of languages on Netflix, but it is not available on Netflix in its native language of Telugu. So that is on Z5. If you want to watch it in the original language, you have to stream it via Z5, and I think that's a worthwhile experience. And now, I have that one quick thing before I go. Guys, get out there and watch Megan. Like, I've been waiting for this for months. A friend told me in the spring, they'd seen a very advanced screening, and they were like, I can't tell you a single detail about this movie because I'm sworn to secrecy. But what I can tell you is this is going to be your favorite movie of 2023, and that Megan, the killer robot character, will be your new, like, feeling seen avatar. All of that information was correct. Megan is a fantastic time. It is from Gerard Johnstone, who is the director of the excellent New Zealand horror comedy Housebound. And it is from the writer of Malignant, Akela Cooper. That is worth the price of admission alone, but there's so much more. It also stars one of my favorite talents and one of my favorite presences as a public figure, Allison Williams, who's really she is a finely curated film career, and you should always bet on Allison Williams. I'm such a believer in that I actually wrote a profile about her that you can find for Wired Magazine at wired.com. Honestly, it's excellent. It's really good. I'm really proud of it, and it is an exploration of sort of the point of profiles themselves in an age when we have so many parasocial relationships stretched across social media platforms, and also what is the meaning and purpose of authenticity in an age of so much self-manufacture, and how Allison's point of view on those things as somebody who participates in those processes and routines and rituals as a public figure. Like, I feel like public figures, you guys, these are the original influencers, our movie stars, our music stars. Since Joan Crawford didn't want, if you want the girl next door, go find the girl next door, since she was an object of myth created from head to toe, the stars have been manipulating the image machine, and now we simply have the power of that in our hands. That's a kind of phenomenon and a kind of act that me and Allison explore in the piece. And the movie it's frankly excellent. The reviews are tumbling in, and they're frankly excellent. So if you've been excited to watch Megan do choreo since you saw the trailer for the first time in October and fan edits of her set to various exquisite pop songs, I think your patience will be rewarded if you get out there and watch this wonderful, hilarious, and guys, I can't lie, at times moving tale of love, friendship, dedication, robots, and murder. So go check out Megan. That is your duty to me as somebody who loves feeling seen. I'm going to put that on you. That's your responsibility. And that, with that parting message, is our show. You can follow us on Twitter at FeelingSeenPod, or send us an email at feelingseen@maximumfun.org. If you want to follow me, I'm JorCrew on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. This show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.